GPS satellite is indicating that we're tracking direct to Broken Hill, and that our time interval to Broken Hill is just under an hour at this time. Our fuel flow and engine instruments are indicating everything's working perfectly, and as you can see, the flight crew is relaxed and just enjoying this trip.
They tunnel into the sand. They eat other little lizards. Bigger lizards eat them.
And how long's the whipsnade grub?
Oh, about as big as your thumb. And the biggest one we've it's about so long.
And you know it's around the acacia?
Yeah, it's in this particular acacia, that species. You can see it in the bottom there.
Do you have to dig deep?
They're actually in the tree itself. They'll kill the tree ultimately.
But you can get hold of it pretty easily.
Yeah, just dig it out and then split the tree apart and have it.
Well, are we having afternoon tea?
Yeah, right. They're beautifully adapted to mistletoe. They, you know, mistletoe's sticky stuff, and they're the only birds that can perch along, that we know of, that perches along a branch rather than across it. And the reason for this is that after they've digested all the gunk off the outside of the mistletoe seed, which is very sweet, lovely food, it's very sticky, and so finish up flying along with a trail of seeds all glued together that they've tried to excrete, but they won't drop off.
We're silly people, aren't we? We travel overseas, we go to Italy and what have you. All right, that's okay. And we hear about Ayers Rock and we say, oh, it's wonderful at sunrise or sunset. I'm sitting where an Aborigine would have sat. There's the marks on the on where I'm sitting, in a cave under ULURU, Ayers Rock, with Alan Fox, who's a full bottle on these things. So where we're sitting, how far back would that go, do you think?
Well, we don't know, but it could be 20,000 years. It's a long time.
Can you describe the view? Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah, we've got a lot of broken rock in front of us. We're sitting in a cave and you're looking out through the window to start. And right in front of us is a lot of broken rock as the face of ULURU recedes, as weathers away and erodes. And then beyond that we've got a belt of bloodwood trees, eucalypts, and amongst that you've got mulga creeping in, and beyond that into the mulga full bore to the dunes in the distance a couple of kilometres away, which have got great desert oaks on them and spinifex, and it's a very beautiful place.
And behind us?
Behind us, solid sandstone.
And paintings.
And paintings, yeah.
You know, you've got to be there. This is just magical, isn't it? Now, you've been coming here a number of times and you've done a lot with Aborigines. Still, does it still touch your heart?
According to the computer, I've walked around this place in the last 2 years 140 times. And it's never the same. Every trip is different, every trip is challenging, and the place presents a different face every time.
Tell me about the people who lived here. Say we'll go back 1,000 years.
Go back 1,000 years, there were probably a couple of families lived in an area of maybe 100 kilometres across, with this great rock ULURU as base. And scattered across that 100 kilometres would have been a series of outstations with all the stone tools deposited there. People wouldn't be silly enough to carry stone around whenever they went to these places for food. Their knowledge of the environment was so great that the idea that they were just nomads that wandered around searching for food is just nonsense. They knew what was happening right throughout their estate, and it was a matter of just simply moving from this place to another place where they knew they were going to find, before they even went, they knew they were going to find kangaroos, and there would be bush tomatoes or whatever other food was growing in the area.
What does the rock mean to them?
The rock is part of their connection with all things on the earth. These particular people that lived here had the responsibility, and a great responsibility, of maintaining the stories of the rock, and maintaining the sites and so on that were here. And I guess apart from the responsibility of keeping yourself alive and well, the responsibility of maintaining the land you were on, they didn't own it, they belonged to it, just as everything else on the land belonged to this particular place. And it was their responsibility and their role to maintain that.
So what would they do all day?
Well, 4 or 5 hours a day at the most. They would, the women and children particularly, would be out gathering food, plant food, and small animals, lizards, small mammals and so on. The men would perhaps be wandering around looking for big bits of protein like kangaroos and parenti lizards and so on. Wouldn't get a great deal of those because the big animals, of course, were fairly sparsely spread across this country, being a desert. So the women collected about 90% of the food, and when that was collected, they would come in. They eat a lot on the way, of course, during the travel, and but they would come back and they'd sit under a tree in a circle. They would talk about, I guess, the day's happenings and think and wonder about the nature of things, and that was more or less life. And have ceremonies, of course, at the right times.
What sort of ceremonies?
Ceremonies related to increasing certain types of food, ceremonies related to telling the stories of their place with the people along the dreaming tracks, or song lines, if you like to use Bruce Chatwin's term. The people here refer to all of this as the Chukapa, and the Chukapa is their history, And in fact, they don't like the idea of dreaming, because dreaming isn't important enough in their mind. Dreaming depends too much on imagination. Whereas the Chocopo is history; it's real, and that's their connection with the land.
But is it not interesting, Alan, that a lot of these stories they tell tend to change from minute to minute?
It depends on the
teller.
On the teller.
Mm.
The themes remain the same, but it's the way they place their knowledge of the environment around the story. I can remember marvellous old man Bill Naegi telling us 16 different stories about one painting, but from the simplest to the most complicated story in the sequence. Every time there was a change of an addition of a level of information.
Mm.
And so it's all passed on orally locally.
So the tribe that was here was
these are the Ananu people, part of the Pitjantjatjara people.
How big was their world? Did they know anything about, did they see the earth as being curved? Did they know there were other people out there, or what?
They certainly knew there were other people out there. I don't know whether they realised that the earth was curved. And there are times too when the sun comes up and you can see the shadow of the earth on the western sky out here, because the air is so clear, and so you get this very intense blue shadow, which is obviously curved. So perhaps they did perceive a. We've added things like feral cats and camels and rabbits and so on.
And fast food.
Fast food.
Hail the white man. Hail the white man. I should say that while I'm talking to Alan, the rain has started to fall outside. And for a moment there I was back at least 10,000 years. Yeah. Well, I'm with Alan Fox, and my name is Robertson.